Hello and welcome to VMware SD-WAN by VeloCloud session. 5 ways VMware SD-WAN enables network transformation. I am Rohan Naggi, Senior Technical Product Manager at VMware. I also run SD-WAN 360 podcast. You can do a Google search for SD-WAN 360. It's one of its kind podcasts. I also co-authored a couple of books on SD-WAN. You can check on Amazon for those SD-WAN books. So let's go through our agenda for this session. 5 essential capabilities that SD-WAN delivers in here, which can transform your network using the VMware SD-WAN. So we'll look at how SD-WAN simplifies the deployment. But before that, we will kind of go over the problem statement, what the problem statement is with the legacy architecture. Then we'll kind of touch base on the SD-WAN 101, where you understand the components, how the VMware SD-WAN solution really works, how the architecture is. And that's where we'll go over those 5 essential capabilities like deployment simplification, application performance, security, what are the flexibility in the security. So with that, let's get started. I call this as IT 1.0, and that's where the legacy architecture comes to play. The traffic pattern, if you see, is very predictable. User from the branch side will try to access a resource which is sitting in the data center. So request, response, and typically it happens over the private circuits, which is an expensive circuit which takes time to get it installed and configured. And then moving on, we started getting more and more public internet connection, but those were used kind of as a backup. So there is an active backup scenario. Not all the circuits were leveraged at the same time. So there was some inefficiency at the same time configuring them, pushing out the policy, different network functions at the branch site. All those created that complexity, and that's where I'll consolidate in the next screen for that problem statement. So like I mentioned, all the user traffic, getting backhauled to the data center where the resources are, but over the years, or even during this pandemic situation where users are working from home, we see that user locations are changing. At the same time, apps or your applications have started moving to the cloud. So your applications are now everywhere. There are on-premise applications, there are cloud-based applications. So enterprise networks are really not ready to work from anywhere. Like I mentioned, apps are moving, even the data centers are moving to the private cloud, the public cloud. WAN is really getting complex out there. You can see actually 50 to 80% of the traffic is backhauled to the data center. And at the same time, complexity has started increasing on the branch sites where you have hybrid connections, you have public internet, you have private internet. So these are some of the problems. But what are the real user concerns for user? Poor voice quality when they are using a business collaboration application like Zoom. At the same time, inconsistent experience when the user changes their location, let's say from branch office to working from home. What are the IT concerns? IT concern is to provide security when the users are moving, when they are using, let's say, different laptop. At home, I'm using my home laptop. How do I access these company applications securely, or applications which are in the cloud? And these leads to other problems, which I have kind of listed out here, scaling problem. At the same time, if you see the biggest kind of a drawback with the legacy architecture is the hub and spoke model. Every traffic from these spokes, from these branch sites, has to go to the data center where the hub is installed, which increases the latency. So with the current environment, if we have to move away from this legacy architecture, what we want is the networking and even the security actually must come together to serve the user either at the branch or at working from home or from any location. And that's where SD-WAN comes to play. And I'll come to this VMware SD-WAN architecture, but let's do that SD-WAN 101. What are the basic capabilities for any SD-WAN solution? So the key four things are transport independence. What it means is, if you remember the problem statement, even when you have multiple circuits, we are using them in a primary backup mode, primary standby mode. But with SD-WAN, you'll be able to leverage all the circuits at the same time. And with VMware SD-WAN, all the circuits by default are in active fashion. So you are leveraging all the circuits, and that brings transport independence. Any kind of circuits you can bring in to VMware SD-WAN. The second key piece here is, now that I can use the public internet, what about the security? How do I access workloads in data center or in public cloud? So I need some kind of a secure overlay, and that's where VMware SD-WAN will build up secure overlay tunnel between branch to hub, branch to data center, where the hub is branch to branch, dynamic branch to branch, or even when the traffic is going to the cloud. And you might be wondering, traffic going to cloud in a secure fashion, and that's where VMware SD-WAN comes to play, and it shines because one of the VMware SD-WAN component, the gateway, it's in the cloud, hosted and managed by VMware. As a customer, you don't have to take care of that gateway. It has a global footprint. And we'll talk about that in the next slide when I kind of share the components of the VMware SD-WAN. And that secure overlay over public internet or private internet brings in the cloud VPN, where the VMware SD-WAN supports multiple topologies, like I mentioned about the hub and spoke, branch to branch. And at the same time, application firewall, there is an integrated firewall built into these edges which you deployed at the branch site or at the office, your home location. Now that we can leverage any circuit, security is in there, who will take care of the link steering if there is any blackout or brownout condition? And that's where the third components come to play is the path selection or the application performance. That's the key. And that's the number one driving force for adopting SD-WAN solution, dynamic path selection. And with VMware SD-WAN, we take a further step away with our secret sauce, which is DMPO, dynamic multipath optimization. It will leverage all the circuits. It will break your single session, traffic session into per packets, into small packets, and it will send across multiple links. So your user traffic will go on all the available circuit, and on the other end, where the VMware SD-WAN gateway or the hub or any VMware SD-WAN data plane device is, we are going to reorder the packet. That's the key here. So per packet, sub-second, that's where this dynamic path selection comes to play. We continuously monitor all the circuits, and if there is any link impairments like latency, jitter, packet loss, we will adapt to it in sub-second fashion. First of all, I think the very key important thing here is you need to make sure that you detect it sooner, and that's where that sub-second comes to play. And we'll talk about this later in the slide. And the fourth key pillar is simple interface, simplicity, which is built into the VMware SD-WAN product. And this is where three key component comes to play: the management plane, the orchestrator. From a single place, you can manage and monitor your circuit. Edges, the CPU device, which could be hardware, virtual, which goes onto your branch, which goes onto your data center as a hub device. And then the third key piece, very important, is the cloud delivered, the cloud-ready gateways, which has a global footprint. So if I have to access any SaaS application, your traffic from the branch will redirect it to these gateways, and then we are milliseconds away to the SaaS cloud or to the internet using these gateways. So we have 1,000+ gateways across the globe. That's where, and why choose VMware SD-WAN? I think we talked about it. Cloud adoption, that's where the gateway comes to play. Assured application performance, DMPO, we talked about it. Simplification, simple, like zero-touch provisioning to kind of instantiate when I drop ship the edge device to your location. With simple clicks, you can zero-touch provisioning, you can kind of activate your edge device and you are ready to go. And then flexibility in the security solution. And that's where VMware SD-WAN comes to play. And now talking about those transformation, I think deployment simplification, that's the key we will talk about first. And this is where I want to show that zero-touch provisioning when the edge device is drop shipped to your home or branch office. And this is where I'm going to kind of share a video and talk through it, what it is about. So as an enterprise admin, you will create a site from the orchestrator. And once the site is created, let's say the device is drop shipped to a remote location where a non-IT person will kind of unpack the device, power on the device, connect the internet cable to any of the WAN ports. You don't have to worry, or you don't have to call the IT support to which port should I be connecting to. So just connect the power cable, connect the internet cables, and then you will receive an activation link from the enterprise admin in your email. So just use your laptop, mobile device, or an iPad and connect to that email, access that email from that device, and click on the activation link. Once you click on the activation link, then the magic happens. The edge device will talk to the orchestrator, exchange security tokens, and that's it. It will get activated. Once it is activated, you don't need that non-IT person, or you don't have to call a remote admin sitting at that branch location to do any modifications or any configuration. You can do everything from that centralized orchestrator management plane, which is also sitting in the cloud, managed and hosted by VMware. It's again a multi-tenant in nature, the gateways and the orchestrator. So you can see the activation process here. Once it's activated, enterprise admin from the orchestrator can view that edge device, and they can kind of use that device to do the further configurations and monitoring piece of it. So let's move away from that video, and now let's talk about that DMPO piece of it. DMPO piece of it. This is where DMPO comes to play. Continuous 24/7 link monitoring we do, so we know at any given time how the links are performing. So we can do link steering in sub-second fashion. Even when we have a single link, we can do on-demand remediation and aggregation. First, we detect the application, because all of our edge devices runs a deep application recognition engine, what we call it as DPI. So today we can recognize 3,000 plus different application. We already built up a secure overlay from the edge device to the hub device or to cloud where the gateways are, or from branch to branch. So all your application traffic which is going inside this SD-WAN overlay tunnel is continuously monitored, and we know at any given point how the links are working. Just to give you kind of a quality score, like a before and after. Before is where, let's say, your traffic has started flowing through this one of the ISP link out here. When you see these red and yellow marks, this is where the WAN impairments are happening. We will try to either remediate these situations, or we'll try to do the link steering if the other link has a better SLA for it. End to end, what you need to remember with the application performance is this key thing: continuously monitor, dynamic per packet steering, and on-demand remediation when you have a single link. With on-demand remediation, we do the jitter correction, error correction, automatic steering when there is a blackout and brownout condition. On a single link, we do the on-demand remediation for a brownout condition. And this is just a use case for a business collaboration application. Let's talk about the architecture for the cloud. Like I mentioned, one of the key components, the gateway, is in the cloud. Globally across the cloud. Today we have 1,000 plus gateway around the globe, which has a footprint globally, and these are kind of sitting in the same co-facility where the SaaS providers are. That's the key to it. So we are kind of milliseconds away to the SaaS cloud. And you can see here now from the branch, I can directly, the traditional approach was to backhaul to the data center and then go to the SaaS cloud. But now with this gateways, you can just redirect the traffic to the gateway, and then it goes to the SaaS cloud. That's where VMware SD-WAN gateway comes to play. Flexible architecture, you can place there is no rip and replace kind of a thing for VMware SD-WAN CPE devices. They come in different form factors. VNF, you can have pre-installed on hypervisors. We also can instantiate these edge devices over the cloud. So any kind of topology is supported. There is no rip and replace kind of here. You can augment with your current topology. Even if you have a third-party kind of a router, you can place your edge device here and you can run a VRRP, or you could run it in a fashion where you have internet connections and the MPLS is going through the CE router for the service provider, and it has a pairing with the PE router for the service provider. At the same time, you can get rid of the CE router and you can use our edge device where it is terminating all the public and the private connections. And you can also connect to a non-SD-WAN site using this overall topology at the data center. You can stack up multiple edge devices to form a cluster. And that's where that flexibility comes to play. When we talk about security, that's very important. We give multiple options. Like I mentioned, we have a built-in firewall, which takes care of your traffic inspection. At the same time, you can still use that backhaul to the data center where you are running a next generation firewall, let's say. So you can still use that legacy approach. There are still some enterprises which leverage that because of some compliance reason. You could also instantiate a third-party firewall on selected SD-WAN edge devices. And even those are supported. The fourth is the secure web gateway, where what you are doing is you are kind of, like I mentioned in the problem statement with the legacy architecture, the branch is running multiple network functions. So it's heavy. It's a thicker branch. So what we are doing is we are taking the complexity away from the branch and putting that in the cloud. So in this case, we are putting the security functionality like CASB providers like Cloud Access Security Broker or other functionalities of SASE, which I'm going to talk about there in a second. But what it means is we're taking the security functionality away from the branch and you are putting it in the cloud. So the SD-WAN task here is to provide you with the transport and the WAN improvements. And that's where that SASE approach comes to play, where you are taking the security functionality in the VMware SD-WAN gateway. So all those SASE components like DLP, CASB Secure Web Gateway, Web Access Firewall, all those things are there in the cloud, and SD-WAN will make sure that you have the WAN acceleration and connectivity to the cloud. And there is plus more, the visibility and the monitoring through Nyansa on the branch LAN side, and then the monitoring on the WAN side with the vRealize network, what we call it as warning. I think this is what I have for the session out here. You understood the problem statement, where the VMware SD-WAN comes to play, and what are those 5 things we talked about which can transform your network from your legacy architecture to an VMware SD-WAN. This is what I have. Thank you.